2-0. Game, set, match, Barcelona.
Yes, 2 goals for them, second in the table, which is where they're hoping to stay as the season closes itself out. They've definitely strengthened their case. They're now 4 points between themselves and Girona with just 2 rounds left to play. Let's welcome in Luis Garcia then, shall we? What to take away from the game that we saw today then, Luis?
Well, I guess that the Barcelona is going to play the Spanish Super Cup next season, that they finish second, that they are going to get a little bit more money from the Champions League and from La Liga, and not much more, to be honest, because, again, we saw Barcelona very predictable, very plain, without much energy, not even in the last part of the game when the changes were done, and just enough to get the results. Honestly, this game is not going to get down to the books. So it was a game about trying to get a result, trying to move and finish the season on a high. Today was a win. Could have been a 3-3, a 4-4, because we saw so many chances. We saw once again the Barcelona vulnerable at the back. Very easy to make chances against them. And in the other side, it was only Fermin Lopez and Lamine, the one who were a little bit sharper. They looked to be a dangerous threat for Almeria, and in the end, 2 great runs from Fermin Lopez to score the 2 goals. But definitely not the best game of Barcelona for the rest of the season. And let's see, it's just waiting to see what is going to happen from now on.
But that was a positive to take away from it, as Luis mentioned, Fermin and the 2 goals as well, Ale.
Yeah, and Fermin Lopez is doing things that I don't think he was expected to do at the beginning of the season. I don't think he was going to have the role that he now has for this club. In fact, you go back to preseason, he scores a goal in El Clásico against Real Madrid, and what a goal it was back then. And you're thinking, well, this may just give him an opportunity to stay with the team. But what we have found is not only stay with the team, but be an important player, an impactful player. And what I'll say about Fermin Lopez today in particular is that at the very least, I'm looking at a player who's enjoying what he's doing, who's enjoying being out there, and who shows that energy and that intensity and that urgency that you're not seeing from a lot of players in Barcelona. What you're seeing is a lot of guys that, even though you win the game, it's just like, all right, let's go back home. This was fun, I guess, but not really. Let's get out of here. There isn't a level of excitement for this team. Maybe it's because it has been a long, tough season and a disappointing, underwhelming season. But you see the body language of some of the players, or most of the players in Barcelona. You see Lewandowski kind of walking around. You see some of the other players that you kind of feel like, okay, where is the leadership? Where is the presence? Where is the persona? Where is the personality of this team? No, they're just going through the motions, completing passes, creating enough chances to win the game. You win it 2-0. I'm not going to criticize the fact that you win a game. Winning a game is what you're there to do. But I guess I suppose expectations of this team that may be unrealistic. But against Almeria, I don't think it's unrealistic to expect this team to play a whole lot better than they did today.
A lot of the drama was before the game, though, Luis, when we were seeing reports from media outlets in Spain that Barcelona might not, after all, be continuing with Xavi next season. A little bit upset is the word by something he said recently, where really all he sent out is a realistic message of the situation at Barcelona, which apparently hasn't gone down well with the higher-ups. What did you make of everything we had to talk about before today's kickoff?
Yeah, exactly. And we thought that it was already all done. They had the conversation, they had the chat. Xavi was going to stay 1 more year. The club and him decided to continue with this project. The youth that he brought to the first team, that transition moment of Xavi on this team, looked like it was already done. So let's move forward and keep going. But in the first press conference, Xavi tried to put a realistic message to the supporters, to the press, to everyone who is following Barcelona. Looks like someone at the top is not happy. So my understanding is that they are trying to build a team for the future, a team that you cannot get the best of the best in the market because of your economic situation, and you try to bring the expectation a little bit lower than maybe you started this season, because in the beginning of the season, everyone was in front of you. You were one of the favorites to win everything, and you realized very soon that that wasn't going to be possible. So I think that now the message, it has to be that one. We are in a transition. We need to be competitive. We will be competitive with this young team plus the experience of some of the players. But in the end, we're going to try to compete to win a trophy. But that doesn't mean that we are going to be one of the favorites. And that looks like it hasn't been handle or they are happy at the board. So we'll see what happened from today's, because the news just break down on today's before the game.
Why should he pretend that it's rainbows and butterflies anyway, Ale?
Well, he shouldn't. But this is something that I think should have been the approach all along from Barcelona. You go back to the beginning of the season and say, look, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. We are rebuilding. We are in transition, as Luis just mentioned, and we're going to have some challenges. And what we're going to do to meet those challenges head on is we're going to depend on the youth of this team and the younger players. And we're going to have those players develop, and hopefully those are the players that are going to lead us into the future, because that's the situation we're in. But because you have, I suppose, is the insistence of club president as well as the club as a whole in thinking that you're fooling fans by saying, we're Barcelona and we're going after every trophy and we're going to win it all and we're going to be great and we're going to play entertaining football, and it doesn't matter if we won the league last year playing ugly football. We want to be entertaining and this and that and the other and the identity of the club, and we're going to get back to the DNA of Barcelona. Okay, great, fantastic. And what has happened? What has happened is that you've been exposed, right? And the fans, which is, I think, the group of people that you're trying to convince that everything is fine, and the group of people that you're trying to convince that we're going after every trophy, the fans will come to the stadium, as they did over the course of the season, and watch this team play, just like we did. And they're vulnerable, and they have issues, and they're inconsistent, and they make mistakes. So you want to paint this picture, if you're Barcelona, of rainbow and butterflies, as you just mentioned. Don't forget fluffy clouds and pretty trees. Look, you want to paint this picture, but the fans see it, and it doesn't match. So fans are not dumb. They obviously figure out that you're selling me a story that is not quite the case. It's like, watch the birdie, and everything over here is falling apart. If you were just honest from the very beginning and straightforward, I think there'd be more people that would say, okay, all right, we're going to come and support our team anyways because we're Barcelona fans. We know there are challenges. We know we're meeting those challenges head on. And I know as a fan that now we have a plan in place and this is what we're doing. But there isn't a plan in place. It's a lot of improvisation. It's a lot of changing on the go and making decisions on the go. And that's what got Barcelona into this situation to begin with.
Oh, well, not to worry for Xavi. Kylian Mbappe coming in at Madrid. That's what he should be sending out, right? A positive message telling the fans it's all okay here.
I'm only surprised that at some point Barcelona didn't announce some kind of interest in Kylian Mbappe. I mean, it really has been that ridiculous. 2 years ago, when Erling Haaland was leaving Borussia Dortmund, Laporta comes out and says, yeah, we're going to throw a hat in that ring. Nobody believed it. And to the point that Ali and Luis are both making, while Barcelona are dealing with these financial struggles, trying to say otherwise, I think is ingenuous or disingenuous. And the one thing that Xavi has shown is that he's not a fraud. That while he understands those economic challenges that the club are going through, he will try to do what he can on the football field to produce the best product that he can. And now here we are talking about one of Barcelona's best servants being a victim of his own success. And while Barcelona have been dealing with these financial struggles for quite some time, Xavi goes and wins the league last year. And now the expectation is, well, he's supposed to be able to do that and kind of sell everybody on a false narrative when everybody sees otherwise. And once you have this frail financial foundation that the club are on, of course you cannot continue to compete with Real Madrid consistently season in, season out. There are going to be these seasons where you have to take a couple of steps back. But all in all, to the point that everybody's making, if you let the fans know that this is our long-term plan, this is what we're doing in the short term in addressing that, I think fans accept that. And you should not be asking anybody, let alone your manager, let alone somebody with as high regard as Xavi, to say anything other.
Okay, let's take a look at La Liga's Player of the Year nominations. 10 on the shortlist, some big names there as well. Here's what we're looking at, notably Jude Bellingham, Robert Lewandowski, Antoine Griezmann all in there, and Vinicius Jr.
You just said Robert Lewandowski?
I did say Robert Lewandowski,
okay.
And we're going to get to that. But Ale, who do you have? Because it clearly isn't Lewandowski.
No, it isn't Lewandowski, and I was torn here, and maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but I'm going to take Vinny Jr. just above Jude Bellingham. But since January, February, we have seen a version of Vini Jr. that not only is best in La Liga, but one of the best in the world.
Luis, do you agree?
No. Yeah, because it's Ali. I'm not going to agree this time. And I have to agree to disagree, to be honest, because I know that Vini Jr. has been outstanding during the whole season. He's been probably the most regular season, more consistent season that we've seen so far from Vini Jr. We expect more because he looks like he's growing every year more and more and becoming the player that we all expected that he will be in the future. But I'm going to get Jude Bellingham. In the last part now, we've seen in the last few games, he started again arriving to that second line. He looks a little bit tired because I think he's been a long season, much more with the injury that he had. But for me, I think he's the key of this Real Madrid success, not only La Liga, but also arriving to the Champions League final.
Shaka, you have the tiebreaker. Is it Vini or Jude?
I give it to Vini and I'm in total agreement with Ali. But then Luis makes a good point. And the truth is, you can't disagree with either vote. And it just comes down to a preference in the moment. And the argument for Jude Bellingham, coming into a team like Real Madrid, you just lose Karim Benzema. You're trying to figure out what your attack looks like with Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo and how does that work. Vini was struggling with injuries to start the season, and Jude Bellingham came in to this team and delivered everything and a whole lot more. And it allowed Real Madrid to find the right formula, to find their foundations for what has been a simply outstanding season. But then roll the clock forward 6 months, and come the important time, squeaky bum time of the season, Vinicius Jr. is his absolute best. So it really just comes down to which part of the season you think is the more important. Finding your footing, finding that foundation early on, or now when the games are coming thick and fast and the importance of them continues to mount, which do you see as the bigger factor here? I've just gone for the latter part of the season. Vinicius Jr. would be my vote.
And it just felt like Jude Bellingham just faded slightly towards the end of the season. The productivity is one thing. I'm not going to hold that against him because we never expected him to be scoring as many goals as he did. But it's more, I just felt like over the last month and a half to the last, I would say, couple of months, it's just been very up and down. There's been injuries, suspensions, so on and so forth. So it hasn't quite been the level of performances consistently so as what we have seen from Vini, and certainly not compared to what Jude did in the beginning of the season. So when we're talking about the totality of the year, then you put those things together, and that's why the difference is very small. It's very small. So I'm not going to take it personal that Luis disagreed with me. He seems to do that quite often.
Everybody disagrees with you.
Yeah, well, yes. This happens at home all the time. Don't worry, Luis. All I'm saying is that the difference is not, whether you think it's Jude or Vini, the difference is not that big.
Something that is a big difference is the time difference in Singapore to here in Connecticut right now.
Hey, I'll tell you what else is different than Luis is wearing clothes today, so that's good.
So we're not going to keep it. We're not going to keep him too much longer. But as Ali mentioned, we saw Robert Lewandowski's name on the list there, and Luis, he is the only Barcelona player on the shortlist of those La Liga nominees right there. Was he Barcelona's best player this season?
Robert Lewandowski let us down a little bit this season. We were expecting, I'm not saying that what he did last year, that he was outstanding, arriving to Barcelona, but something similar. And we saw Lewandowski that he looked tired at some points. He wasn't sharp enough. Of course, the amount of goals that he has delivered is not the same of what Barcelona needed. For me, I would go more about Lamine Yamal, that the same like Shaka was mentioning, it depends on what time of the season, but I think the way that Lamine Yamal has driven Barcelona to arrive to the second spot in the last couple of months, just with that, I think he can be the nominee for the best player of Barcelona this season.
You want to agree with him?
There's no question, 100% that the player of the season, if indeed you're talking about Barcelona, it would be Lamine Yamal. And nowhere near should Robert Lewandowski be in this list. I mean, I'm talking about nowhere near this list. His performances have been underwhelming. He himself would tell you that it has been a disappointing season. And if we're going to pick, if indeed we have to pick a Barcelona player, because we don't have to pick a Barcelona player as a player of the season nominee. But if we're going to pick one, it has to be Lamine Yamal, not Lewandowski.
All right. Well, that's where we will end it right here, and we'll find out who does get named on this as well. We'll thank Luis for being with us. We're going to finally let you get some rest, Luis Garcia, on his travels again.